hundreds of thousands of people. It's super healthy. There's nothing weird about it at all, but it is going up against the status quo. So you're going to get a lot of kickback on that for sure. But I went through every single article out there in my videos, and I explained how it's healthy for the kidneys. I mean, think about just the opposite. What would be the opposite of a low carb diet? It would be a high carb diet, right? And that's called,
right.
You have blood sugar problems. It's a pre-diabetic, diabetic. If you take someone with high levels of high glucose because they're on a high carb diet, look what that does to the kidney. I mean, it just destroys the kidney, and very specifically the kidney of all the organs. So no, keto is extremely healthy. And then I would also just get more information yourself so you really understand it, so you can answer this, because I would love to find out what in the ketogenic diet is bad for the kidney. Nothing. That was my long answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Berg. So anyway, we do have a little odd image on you, but I think we'll just keep going. And if the audience will just forgive him, that is not his current hairstyle. And Doc, I think we've got some correct quiz questions up this week. So I'm going to throw the first one up. And if you would introduce that to the audience, stand by.
Yes. Here's the first question. Let's see. Yes, that is the first. That's correct. What is the number one leading cause of heartburn? And of course, I'm not talking about searching on Google, but I'm talking about what is the cause of heartburn? And that's just from watching my videos and things. See if you guys can guess this. This is just a test to see if you've been watching my videos. So that's the first question. And I also want to give a disclaimer. Anything that I'm saying is not really meant to replace your medical care. And so I'm not trying to cure anyone. So check with your doc before implementing any of the things I talk about. And then Steve, I wonder, now the image is okay. It kind of comes and goes. It's weird because I have a very high speed connection here. So will you have to let me know if that works or not?
Well, it looks terrific right now. So let's stick with that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So should we take another caller, Steve?
Let's do it. Stand by, and we're going to speak with Donna, and she is coming from us from Berrien County. So just a moment.
Hi, Donna.
Hello, Dr. Berg. I've been keto on and off for the last 6 years, and I say on and off because I have an issue that I think is a bigger issue in the keto and low carb community than what many people realize or will even admit. For the last 20 years, I've personally struggled with alcoholism, and the problem I have with keto and intermittent fasting is when my carbs, even though I can do 20 grams or less a day, which I don't mind doing, if I go for a prolonged period of time doing 20 grams or less, it sets me up to have these cravings that are very hard to control. And then I've also done intermittent fasting with a large degree of success. But the classic mantra is don't let yourself become too tired, too hungry, too stressed, to all of these things to maintain your sobriety. So while I've experienced the benefits of keto and I dearly want to have this in my life again, I also have to tender that with the fact that I don't want to set myself up to fail in my sobriety. So how can one embrace keto and be low carb enough to be in ketosis, but not so low carb that you're going to trigger the cravings, and then be set to tackle intermittent fasting when I do better with 350, 400 small meals a day to keep my blood sugar stable. And I do realize keto will help stabilize the blood sugar. But again, I've struggled, and here I am, little chubby self. So I would really appreciate your input.
All right. There's a couple things I think you can try. Number one, there's nutritional yeast tablets you can be chewing on through the day, a lot of them. You need a lot of B1. Vitamin B1 is kind of like the spark plug to the engine of the little cells to get things kicked in there, to get things working again. And so nutritional yeast, a lot of it, like all day long, get them as tablets, and that's gonna be helpful. The other thing too is that if you give your brain enough ketones, like even bypass the system, and then you just take straight ketones as a supplement, or even as MCT oil, either a powder or liquid, that will at least give your brain energy, and you're gonna feel better from that. Your mood will be stabilized. So that's one thing. But I do understand what you're dealing with. You're running into a situation where your liver is not converting efficiently yet. It hasn't fully adapted. And that, because sometimes it takes 3 months of consistency, but how do you get there? You just have to cope as best as you can until you get there. You might want to keep your carbs maybe at 50 grams, not 20. So you're at that break point there, and I think you could be okay. You also might benefit from a little more protein. Make sure your foods are nutrient dense. And then the other thing too is that I would probably look at areas of supplements in the area of plant-based, like milk thistle, for example, things that would strengthen the liver and the blood sugars, like berberine is a really good one too. They can help assist you. And then kombucha tea is a good one as well, because that can actually give you almost like a kind of a substitute of alcohol, but it's not. I mean, there's a small amount of alcohol, but it's like even trace. It's just hardly anything in there. But those are some tips that I would do to help you. But if you're craving, just realize that you're in this transition where you're not quite there, but we just need to keep helping you to make it easier and easier to get there. So try those things, come back, and let me know how that worked, okay?
Well, that's great.
All right.
We are certainly pulling for Donna, and we hope that she continues on that great path and gets healthy and all that stuff too. That's a big part of it. Well, Dr. Berg, so go to our first quiz question. So,
yes,
and the question was, what causes heartburn? If I've truncated that correctly, and 60% say low stomach acid, 30% say low levels of bile, and 10% say high levels of insulin from sugar and carbs. Do we have any winners today, Dr. Berg?
Well, the winner is the primary thing is low stomach acids. Now, if you look this up, it says something completely different. It says spicy foods, fatty foods, and it says GERD. And if you look up GERD, it'll be, what causes GERD is acid reflux or heartburn. And if you look up heartburn, it says it's GERD. So it's goes around in circles. So, and because that link is not made, a person will end up on antacids, and especially something called proton pump inhibitors, and like Nexium and Prilosec. Those basically just stop your stomach from producing acid. And it's just quite bizarre to me to think that here you are, you have heartburn, and you're going to take something that's going to go the opposite direction and take that last little bit of acid that you have and get rid of it. There are so many side effects from that medication, but it's probably one of the most popular drugs on the planet right now, and so many people are doing it. Between 1992 and 2017, one of those medications grossed $72 billion. So I know a lot of people are taking this medication simply because when they do research for the symptom, it gives you the wrong information. It gives you the wrong cause. What you should do is get something like betaine hydrochloride or apple cider vinegar and start taking more acid. And what you're going to find is that acid reflux will go away unless you have an ulcer, in which case you have to heal that first with some type of chlorophyll product that can start to heal it over a period of time, and then add the acid back in there. Cabbage is a really good vegetable for those people that have heartburn, acid reflux, or GERD, as an FYI.
All right, well, that sounds great, Dr. Berg. Great advice. And I must admit, I'm one of those $72 billion contributors. I've gone back and forth. I just got to get on that idea of slurping down the stuff like you told me to, and I'm bad, Doc. So hang in there with me. I'll get it. In the meantime, let's do a shout out from our viewers this morning coming from the UK, Canada, Denmark, South Africa, Australia, Argentina, the Philippines, Iraq, Mexico, France. Let's see, the Philippines, Iraq, Mexico, France, Algeria, Egypt, Pakistan, Sweden, Puerto Rico. We haven't heard from them for a while, and all across these United States. So welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you as a part of the show. And let's see, Doc, shall we kick off another quiz question now that we have answered that? Stand by.
Yes. Okay. This is the old question, Steve. I'm gonna give the correct question. Okay. True or false? Can air pollution cause diabetes? True or false? Actually, let me give you the correct question. Air pollution causes diabetes. True or false? How about that, Steve?
Okay, now that's set. So go ahead, audience, and dig into that. And I tell you what, Karen has tried to come in a number of times, and she couldn't get her video camera to work. So what we're going to do is just to bring her in behind you. So hopefully we'll hear. Karen, I hope you're there. Stand by. I'm unmuting her. And
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
go ahead with your question, Karen.
Yes, sir. I've been on keto 3 years. February 25th was my 3-year anniversary. I've never got off of keto. I have occasionally gone up to 50 or a little bit higher, but I stopped losing, and since October, I have been gaining. And the only thing is under some stress. I gained I was like 20 pounds from my goal weight. I've lost 70 on keto. And then I started gaining. So I went from the 160s to 181 or maybe 182. Then I fast. Like last week I did a 72-hour fast. Right now it's been, today will be 48 hours since I've eaten. So then I'll lose like 5-6 pounds. And then as soon as I start eating, like one meal a day, I go back up.
Okay.
I don't know what to do.
All right. Can you tell me roughly what that meal is?
Well, I do your green, I think it's super greens, because I have diverticulitis off and on, so I can't have raw vegetables. And then, so I can have cooked vegetables, though. And maybe 8 ounces of protein, like hamburger. It's usually hamburger. It's usually beef or pork. And sometimes I make that mug bread and I add butter to it, or eggs and bacon. Just what I've always done. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's a couple things, and I just released this video. Yes, I did release the video. I'm not sure if you saw it. The other two, I always tell people if they're not losing weight, check your carbs and fast longer, which you're doing. But there's two other factors that I spent a little bit more time on. One would be the lack of sleep, and the other is the stress. And so I want to just tell you what was in that video. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. But what happens when you goes to stress is you activate cortisol. Cortisol is a glucocorticoid, which means it actually causes the body to start making more glucose. So here you are, you're not eating any sugar, but your body is making it because you need that quick energy. So all that sugar then is converted into fat and it's making it from non-carbohydrate sources. It's making it from fat. It's making it from protein. So that's one thing. The other thing is this diverticulitis. That's the thing that's probably kicking your butt right now. But I think the weaker the digestive system, and you might want to just try not consuming any greens for a while, because I think some of that weight could be fluid. That's just my guess. And I would love to have you test that out and just like cut out the greens for a while and just do more of a carnivore for a little bit and see if your weight starts to get better, because with diverticulitis, there's a weakness within the system, and that takes some time to heal. One really good supplement for diverticulitis is TUDCA, because TUDCA has a special property in it's TUDCA. It's a special property of help healing inflammation in the gut and leaky gut and permeability issues and diverticulitis, any of the itises. So I would get that. I would take 2 in the morning. I would take 2 in the afternoon, empty stomach, and then cut out some of the vegetable and even the vegetable supplements right now and just see how you do. I think what you take is my wheatgrass juice powder, right? Or is it the veggie solution?
Veggie solution.
Yeah, I think that has fiber in it. That might be irritating your gut and causing you to hold water. A better one would be probably the wheatgrass juice powder, because it has no fiber and it will not irritate your gut. And then it'll give you the nutrition that you need. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Aaron, for your question. And Dr.
She had one. Can you pull her back? She had one more point she wanted to say.
Sure, stand by just a moment, Karen. Hold on.
Hey, what were you saying?
Go ahead, Karen.
I'm type 2 diabetic, but 11 days after starting keto, I got off 2 types of insulin and metformin. But my blood sugar did go up from 5.7 to 6 during that time I started stress. I do take your cortisol supplements also.
Okay. So I think it's this transition thing where your cortisol is the problem that's making some of the sugar, because that could be the only reason. Because if there's no way, if you lower your sugars, that your A1C should go up like that. So, and it's not very significant, but I mean, it's just up by a little bit. But the point is that it went up. So I think your program right now should be to hyper focus, or just focus your energy on just doing everything you can to keep a stress-free attitude, a stress-free life, go for long walks, make sure your environment is very peaceful. If there's anyone in your environment that's stressing you out, develop new friends, replace them with friends that support you. And especially the family, you can turn them in for some good ones if they're not as great as you'd like them, and you can order them online as well.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yes.
Thank you, doctor.
You're welcome. But I'll tell you, Steve, your environment is very, 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 very important in influencing your cortisol levels and the people around you. You have to really select your friends wisely. You got 2 types of people. You got people that bring you up and people that bring you down. And you know what? You got to really determine who you want to hang out with. So
yeah, big effect on health, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does.
Another big effect on health can air pollution cause diabetes? And the audience says 70% of them say it's false, no way, and 30% say true. Is there any wisdom in their answers?
Okay, so I did a video on this. I'll be releasing it this next week. It's quite interesting. The answer is true. Now, how can that be? There's what's called particulate matter. It's these tiny little solids and liquids that hold chemicals in areas of the world that are polluted, that then you inhale. It goes deep into your lungs, into your blood, and apparently it creates inflammation and oxidative stress, which then messes with your blood sugars. Now, so it definitely can cause diabetes is another thing that I had no idea until I saw this study. I was like, wow, that is wild. But the cool thing about this, there's some good news. If you do fasting, that connection to diabetes effect goes away. This is just another reason why if you live in a polluted environment, you need to be doing fasting to protect yourself. So intermittent fasting, if you're new to my channel, go to the channel. I have a lot of information on how to do fasting. In fact, a whole new write-up. It's right on my website. It's a download. You could download it and get started immediately, Steve.
Well, that's terrific news. Also good news is we have Ahmed coming to us, has a question for you, Dr. Berg. And Ahmed, go ahead with your question.
So I started keto because like I had a really high blood pressure, like around 155/90. And after I started keto back in April, my blood pressure like went down to normal, like around 120/80. But sometimes like I get spikes in my blood pressure, like 135 to 88, closer to 90. But that happens so far only twice. It's happened when I ate healthy noodles, and the other time I ate like the keto bread.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I'm just trying to find out what is the reason behind this. And also, like I have another question too. Should I wait to ask you or?
Go ahead, ask me.
Okay, so about slowing down the metabolism. Before I started keto, I used to consume about 4,000 to 5,000 calories per day. And now, like with keto and I do OMAD fasting mostly, and I see it's really hard to hit like 4,000 to 5,000 calories. So is there any problem cutting it down? Like, is that going to affect my metabolism or no?
I think what's going to happen is that your body is probably adjusting to less meals, and your blood sugars are going to be much better. And so I think when you're eating less meals, you don't need as many calories because your body is adapted to that. So I think you can get by with less. That's one thing. And plus, the fact that you're probably improving insulin resistance means you're absorbing more nutrients. So your body's actually getting more nutrition, which is good. As far as the other question goes, in these keto breads and some of the desserts and some of the noodles, there's all sorts of additional so-called keto-friendly ingredients, which might not be friendly, or you could be sensitive to, or you might react to some of the sugar alcohols and the other things like the almond bread. So use them if you need them, if they help you, but I would try some other recipes that have other ingredients. So you may have an allergy to it, or it just could be reacting to you. I think one of the best indicators to know if something is good for you is if it spikes the blood sugar or not, or blood pressure or not. So for example, it might spike your blood pressure, but for me, it might cause pain in my abdomen. So I just won't eat it. It's your barometer to know what you should be eating and not eating.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
All right, great. You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Berg, speaking of calories, you mentioned that, and we have a lot of great questions from social media. And one gentleman asked, and this is a question that I hear a lot, how many calories do you eat? And I know that the keto diet's not a basis of calories, but nevertheless, people are curious.
I honestly, I don't do very many. Compared to other people, I think I do maybe 2,000 calories, if that, maybe 1,800, 2,000 calories. I'm 56 years old. My metabolism is changed, and I'm not 18 anymore, so I eat a lot less, and I eat less frequent. I do 1.5 meals a day. I just did a video on that, and I spread it out. But I cannot, when I started to do fasting, I cannot eat nearly as much as I used to. And at first, I thought, whoa, is that a problem? But no, because my body is more efficient at utilizing the food that I eat. And plus, I eat nutrient-dense foods. Before, Steve, I kind of was maybe like when you were growing up eating a lot of carbs. I know most of us did. For breakfast, I think I had cereal and muffins for years, right? And thinking that, well, I'm doing my whole grains. And I always wondered why I had that heartburn and that eventually the ulcer that, of course I was drinking pots of Cuban coffee and pizza, but it was all low fat, Steve.
Well, that's fantastic. And speaking of which, carbs, there's a gentleman on Facebook that wants to know if it's okay to reduce carbs for his 3 and 6-year-old kids. He didn't say keto, but maybe getting rid of some of those carbs. What'll happen to a little kid if you do that?
I would. I mean, I would just eliminate any of the sugar carbs. I wouldn't do the sweet fruits. Maybe you could do the berries. People say, oh, kids need carbs. Well, you could do some of the berries and maybe have their carbs a little bit higher and maybe do a sweet potato here and there. But I wouldn't start just doing a lot of carbs. You need to have that child eat for nutrition. So things like healthy meats, vegetables, fish, olives are really, really good. So avocados, Lucy, I think she's 2.5 already. She is like one of the healthiest kids, so advanced. I mean, it's just amazing. And I know it's because of the food and also the breastfeeding help too. But summer sausage it's organic. You can find it online, and it's a fatty meat with all grass fed. It's really healthy. You can get that. And she loves that. She does great high quality cheese, and she does berries and things like that, but she doesn't do any extra sugary type things. She might occasionally do a banana, but other than that, we're not doing intermittent fasting with her, but she just doesn't do all that sugar stuff. So, and you can see it in her development as far as her reaction, her coordination, her reaction time, her ability to communicate compared to other kids her age is just like off the charts. So, all right.
Well, yeah, and I think so. My dad, as well-meaning as he was back in the 50s, would take me and my brother by the drugstore for 2 glazed donuts and a glass of milk, where all the food groups were told to be represented. And I go to school and immediately end up in the principal's office. So I'm not going to make a direct correlation. I was a naughty boy nonetheless, but who knows? Hey, we've got some great questions. Speaking of naughty, or I don't know if this is naughty, James from YouTube. If coffee and herbal tea won't break a fast, how about whiskey?
Whiskey will break a fast even though it's low carb because the alcohol in it creates kind of a shock to the liver to the point where it takes the liver a long time to recover. So now we don't have the benefits of making ketones. So you really put the liver into a major destructive mode when you do whiskey, unless it's high quality moonshine, in which case it's a whole different story. That was my sarcasm.
Oh, that's perfect. Hey, listen, by the way, next we're going to go to Akil, but let me throw one more question out to you because we're talking about kids today for some reason. Can I give my kid K2D3 product to my 6-year-old and to my 10-year-old? Is that in any way beneficial or perhaps harmful?
Just one a day would be fine of those. Yeah, that would be fine. That would give them a good amount of vitamin. See, in the D3 I have it, I also have K2. I also put in their B6. I also put in their MCT oil and magnesium. So all the cofactors to really make sure those work. And, kids nowadays, unfortunately, are mostly very deficient in vitamin D and especially K2, simply because they don't go out in the sun as much and especially because of the lockdown. So if you give them the D3, it's essential for their development, for their immune system, for reducing inflammation. If a mother carrying a child is deficient in vitamin D, their risk for getting bone malformations in that child is much higher, like scoliosis, hunchback, swayback, kyphosis, all sorts of dental malformations. So that vitamin D, I'm telling you, is very, very important.
Oh, well, that's great news. And now on to Akil, who is calling from the UK. Akil, you're on with Dr. Berg.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you very much for taking my call. I have 2 questions. The first one is a slightly embarrassing one. My wife and I started keto just over a month ago. And since we started, she's saying that my breath is unbearable. Now, the weird thing is that she's doing it with me and we're eating almost the same thing, but I haven't noticed anything about her breath. So is this a coincidence? Something else is happening with me, or is it keto related?
I think it has to do with your adaptation. You're not quite adapted fully to burn off these ketones effectively yet. So there's a couple things that you could do. You can actually add more veggies. like especially like parsley and mint to your diet to add more chlorophyll to help speed things up. Also, a really good non-dairy probiotic would be very helpful in countering that as well. You can take some of the, and I don't know if I actually have it, because I sell some products in the UK through Amazon. There might be something, but it's my probiotic. It's a liquid, and you can even put some in your mouth, actually. And it's unbelievable for any type of bad breath issues that could be happening. But I think you're in a transition phase that will go away. I would add more greens and chlorophyll to kind of speed things up, and definitely a probiotic. And I think you should be good to go from that.
Thank you. Can I shoot a quick one, please?
Yeah.
Another one. I am supplements wise, we're both only taking electrolyte sports drink. Now, I am not feeling the need for anything else. My energy hasn't changed. In fact, it's better since we started, but my wife is. So are there any essential supplements that you recommend that we must take?
Well, I think if you're eating nutrient-dense foods, I think you're going to be good with what you're taking. The B vitamins are always a factor, so that would be something that, the other thing that's hard to get, and it would help you with ketosis, especially your wife's energy. And there's two things. One is the nutritional yeast tablets, but I will be honest with you, some people, not everyone, just can't do the taste. They can't chew them. They don't like the taste of them. In which case, I recommend the Keto Energy, which has a different blends of B vitamins, and that definitely, you won't taste anything from that. It's a little more expensive, but it's a higher quality B, and it's going to bring your wife's energy up. But it's really the B vitamins that she needs to increase the energy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, thank you, Ahmed. Akil, excuse me. That was a great question. And we've got so many from social media. Let's go on to the next one. Dr. Berg, this is Alex from YouTube wondering how he can get rid of keto rash. What should we do for him?
That's vitamin B2 deficiency. So again, he needs the B vitamins, nutritional yeast. And I know, Steve, you love that nutritional yeast, but it's a B2 deficiency with that rash. And so that's what you're missing. I wonder if we should go to a quiz question.
I think we should, and there it is.
Okay. Can antioxidants shorten your lifespan? Is that true or false? Or is it yes or no? Can it?
Oh, we better find out about that. That sounds rather serious. It's sort of like Soviet missiles on their way. Details at 11.
Exactly, Steve.
All right, let's see. And by the way, I want to remind the audience that anyone that has filled out the application and gotten a link to our show, I'd like for you to try to come back in and get on board because we have some spaces open. We're going to be working on Kevin, who's in here having a little technical difficulties, but let's see if we can get him up. In the meantime, let's go back to social media, Doc, and let's see. Tia Ray, as Terry has phonetically spelled it, from Facebook. Any suggestions to address scoliosis? I'm 25 years old and my shoulders are uneven. What can they do?
Well, unfortunately, you're 25 years old and the bones probably have closed at this point as far as to help reverse it, because you have to get it early in life. And it's really a vitamin D deficiency, which you probably should take. But that being said, now that you have scoliosis, there's some things that you can do. There's a great technique that I would recommend to anyone with scoliosis, poor posture, back pain, and it's called Agoscu, the Agoscu method. You can look it up online. Don't ask me to spell it. Agoscu, and there's a series of exercises that they do that help balance the symmetry of your body. And for scoliosis, it would be very beneficial to counter that with exercises that put you more on the center of your core. I would definitely recommend that for scoliosis. Absolutely, Steve.
All right, well, that's interesting. And pardon the pun, but there is a rash of how can chewing gum questions in this one person. How can I curb a chewing gum addiction? And a lot of other people on social media were asking about kids chewing gum. I guess their question was, is it good, bad? Is it a problem? Maybe with their oral hygiene and so on.
Out of all the problems, it's probably on the low end, but I would definitely get a keto-friendly gum sweetened with erythritol, which actually helps decrease dental decay. So erythritol, and then you're good. But I will say that a lot of people chew gum to kind of keep them busy from eating and things like that. I think that's fine. If it starts to affect your jaw, then that's a whole different situation, because it's you're constantly chewing, which is kind of an abnormal thing. But it's better than chewing pencils, right, Steve?
Oh, absolutely.
Or chewing your nails.
Dr. Berg, you got to work on me. I've got this unique relationship with Dr. Berg. I can stand in front of him and ask him questions, and I don't know what he's going to do, slap my hands, put nail polish on it or something, but my nails are butchered. 67, you would have thought I'd gotten over that. But I tell you what, I haven't gotten over nutritional yeast, and I don't intend to. And this leads us into our question from Rose from Facebook. Steve, what does nutritional yeast taste like? And I find it to be a very nutty, pleasant taste. My wife would rather just swallow them. She calls them armpit pills. And that's prejudice as far as I'm concerned. I love them. I eat a lot of them every day, but again, they're in capsule form, or rather in tablet form, so you can just swallow them. But I love the taste of it. It's very nutty and satisfying, and it mellows me out. And as I've told you many times before, it is my food supplement, or it gives me something to gnaw on when I would rather do something naughty. And I tell you what, I bet that nutritional yeast, because of what it does for me in terms of staving off my desire to eat something naughty, I've probably lost 20 pounds additionally just from that habit. And I still gnaw on my fingernails, but let me tell you something, nutritional yeast is absolutely fabulous. I guess we should go on to our...
It's a great demonstration to do in the office when I would have patients. Like one time I had this husband and wife that came and they were fighting, and I put them in separate rooms, and I just gave them some nutritional yeast to chew on, and come back about 5 minutes later, and they're both in the room holding hands, back in communication, because what it does is it just takes the stress right out of you. If you feel this buildup of energy, like you just can't relax, it just calms the nerves. So yes, it might not taste the best in the world, but it sure makes you feel better, for sure. So, but it does get in your teeth. So when you smile, you have to kind of cover up all the little particles there, Steve.
I'll be careful. I just munched down 3, and I'm on my way to a better mood right here on the Dr. Berg Show. By the way, we've got some answers. So the question was, can antioxidants shorten your lifespan? And the audience suggests that 90% say false. No way. 10% are nervous and say that could be true.
Okay, so the answer is yes, but I want to qualify it. There are studies down out there that show that antioxidants decrease your lifespan. Now, how can that be? It's conflicting information. And if you look at the details, what type of antioxidants do they use? They use mostly synthetics, okay? Synthetic antioxidants made from petroleum. So that's one factor, but they also tested it in an isolation. So in other words, what does an antioxidant do? It lends out one of its electrons to a free radical. Free radical is an atom that has unpaired electrons. So it's kind of creating destruction because it's not stabilized. So an antioxidant comes in there. Oh, I'll give you one of my electrons. Well, guess what happens to the antioxidant? It then becomes a free radical because it's unpaired itself. It's unstable. So in nature and in our bodies, we have networks of antioxidants that work together that they can borrow and lend other electrons. And so you never have this imbalance. This is why the test is really invalid, because they're not representing something that happens in nature. So when you buy vitamins or antioxidants, always make sure they're food-based or food concentrates, not an isolated synthetic antioxidant compound, especially the two that were found in the study, which were beta carotene and The other one was vitamin E. Okay, you don't want those synthetic. You want those in a food base. And also vitamin A too. So food for thought, Steve.
Okay, and more food for thought. Ash from Facebook wants to know, has been on keto and intermittent fasting for 3 months. Will collagen tablets break a fast?
Yes, because collagen is protein. So if you're doing protein, you don't see protein and carbs stimulate insulin. So fat doesn't. You'd be better eating some lard or tallow or something tablets than a collagen tablet, because that will not spike insulin.
Well, that's fantastic. Why don't we bring up another quiz question then? And here you go.
All right. True or false? We should probably just say yes or no. Can mouthwash cause bad breath? And I don't know who your proofreader is, Steve, but can mouthwash cause bad breath? So can mouthwash cause bad breath? Yes or no? How about that?
All right, we'll throw it out there. And what a horrifying thought that is.
I know, because all the years that you've been using that mouthwash.
I know, well, at least it lasts about 10 seconds, so who knows what happens after that.
All right. I think we have this caller. Is it?
No, Intizar, I'm not sure if we can get her up. She doesn't have her camera on, so I'm worried about that. And don't.
I'm here.
Oh, good. Well, Intizar, why don't you just go ahead and ask your question of Dr. Berg?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hi. Really great, so kind of you. My things is quite, kind of a little bit, it has description in it, if you don't mind, please. So, yeah, I suffer from a severe pain in my right side under the ribs, and it spreads to the back right shoulder. It gets aggravated nearly 9 to 10 hours after a meal. All the symptoms indicate a gallbladder. However, I done 3 ultrasounds, scans, and 2 MRI, and the results are okay. I watched a lot of your videos. I just get to know you like a few months ago, unfortunately. Since I started watching a lot of your videos on liver fibrosis and cirrhosis, and I believe I have this condition by connecting what you said with my symptoms. The pain is dull, constant, burning, grinding, and it gets aggravated by 2 things actually: fatty food and spicy food. I don't do deep fry, and for example, an omelette and fried eggs will cause me so much disturb, and discomfort. Same time, I have a thyroid noodles, and also I done a test, and the test was negative. At the same time, I have the symptoms of an underactive thyroid. Again, I watched some of your videos where you said there could be a damage in the liver or a gallbladder that caused the noodles. Also, by watching your videos, I realized I have been having insulin resistance and estrogen dominance for a very, very long time. I'm talking like 15 years or more without even knowing. I also have fibroids that used to cause me a heavy period. I believe when you say thyroid issue can be related to either a liver damage or a gallbladder damage. So my pain, because I'm saying that because my pain is, it gets, when the pain get messed up, I feel more irritated with the neck noodles. Things I tried and that made things worse. For example, I tried vitamin D.
So let me just kind of, I want to cut you off for a second there, because one thing is
Sure.
when we do a full evaluation online, there's quite a few people that we just want to give quick answers to quick questions, but I'm going to answer your question. Okay. So I know there's a lot of history there. So I want to just give you a couple really important things. Everything points to gallbladder, especially the hypothyroid condition because you need the gallbladder and the bile to convert T4 to T3. Also, the pain on that side indicates gallbladder, but you had a test. It showed no problems. Well, I found something. I had to dig deep into some of the textbooks on this point, because sometimes when the bile is, we're not talking gallstones, but we're talking about a thickened bile situation. It's called cholestasis, where the bile is thicker. Sometimes that sludge just doesn't show up on even an MRI, even though it's thicker. Sometimes you have to do a functional test, and sometimes it's very hard to find out. A much better way to handle this, a super simple and easy way to know if that's what you have, is just to take some purified bile salts. Now, the one I would recommend for this situation would be TUDCA, TUDCA. And you would take 2 of them in the morning on an empty stomach, and 2 in the afternoon on an empty stomach, not with meals, because TUDCA is, I just did a video on this. I will release it next week. It helps to thin the bile to the point where now we don't get a backup of bile that's irritating your liver and creating a backup pressure and pain down the right side. So TUDCA, I think, is going to be a wonderful thing for you to give you relief and help even your thyroid work better. You'll have to search out the brands. I'm not going to recommend a brand, but and also you mentioned you're of high estrogen dominance, which could also inhibit the thyroid function. But I would start with that and then get on a healthy keto. I know you're trying, but make sure you do it exactly in my book. And probably focus in on the liver body type. But that's what you need, and probably avoid some fats in the meantime so you don't end up overdoing it, because you just don't have the bile to digest those fats. So that's why you're reacting. But I wouldn't have figured out the solution until I dug deeply into some of the textbooks. But but thank you very much.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you, Intezar. By the way, she was calling from the UK as well, so we're getting a lot of questions from the UK, which is really exciting. Yeah. And then also,
we'll spend more time, but there's just so many people. It's like it's a whole competition.
Absolutely. And speaking of eating up time, we do have answers for the latest question. Can mouthwash cause bad breath? 80% say yes, interestingly, and 20% say no. I would have thought it would have been the opposite, but most people say it can.
Yeah, the answer is yes, because that alcohol in the mouthwash kills germs that cause bad breath and kill your normal germs, your healthy germs, the healthy probiotics in your mouth. You have all these friendly microbes in your mouth. You have over 100 different species, at least, probably 1,000 in your mouth that help protect you against all sorts of things. So when you destroy those, you can get an overgrowth of an unfriendly bacteria and an unfriendly yeast and fungus, giving you almost like a candida type thing. And that can actually end up with bad breath. So a better solution is to just brush your teeth normally and dental floss, and maybe chew on some mint leaves or do some coconut oil pulling, and I will release a video on that this next week.
That's wonderful. And speaking of gallbladder, I think you mentioned that with our last caller, Shanae from YouTube. How can I lose weight without a gallbladder? How does that interact with all that?
Well, you still have the ducts, you still have the tubes, and so you just don't have the storage facility to hold and secrete the bile. So generally speaking, most people are going to be lacking in the bile area. So I would then add purified bile salts or some gallbladder support formula to your diet to replace what you're missing. Now, how do you know if you're taking too much bile? Well, if you have diarrhea, because if you have too much bile, it's going to create a laxative effect. So then you have to back up and not take so much.
Well, that's interesting. Boy, these questions are rolling in right on cue. Marcia from Facebook wants to know, can I take TUDCA with bile salts?
Yeah, you can. In fact, I recommend it. There's many different types of bile salts. The one that I have is mainly for digestion of digesting fats, but TUDCA is a little different. That actually addresses many different things, especially like a thickened sludge of bile that's blocking the ducts. And I always recommend that always take that on an empty stomach. But when you see the video that I release on this, it's quite fascinating because of what it can do. It has broad effects. And if you ever have like a weird symptom that you can't figure it out, like with the heart or your breathing or with your lungs or whatever, take TUDCA and watch what happens, because it's like one of those, that little thing that you can pull out that will eventually work when nothing else will.
Well, that's great news, Doc. And let's go ahead with our last quiz question, hopefully typo-free.
Which is easier to digest, raw or cooked food?
Okay, raw or cooked food is the last question up. And I tell you what, let's go back to social media. And once again, folks, hang on, let me bring myself up so I can look sincere in my plea. And once again, we want you all to, we know we've abandoned the phone system. It created a lot of issues, but this wonderful way, Dr. Berg really likes to be able to see your face. So I want to encourage all of you that have filled out the application and gotten a link, and it changes each week, so you can last week's link. We want you to come on and go face-to-face with Dr. Berg, and we have a certain maximum amount that we can fit at any one time. So don't give up. And if it says it's all filled up or whatever, just come on back and continue to try that link. And I and Dr. Berg are both watchful for that. And when you see you pop in, we'll do our best to get you on the air. So
How can someone find that link? I mean, is it going to be in the reminder video?
Well, I tell you what, when each week when the show is set up and announced, there is an application process in that area. So drberg.com, and I tell you what, I'll address the folks that market that and see if we can come up with a more robust or obvious way to alert people about doing that. And again, we're all kind of getting used to this new routine, and we think it's much better and allows us to see the callers. I just think it's really interesting to see all these different faces from around the world.
On Thursday, I'll tell you what, Steve, we'll put the link Thursday before my Friday shows. I release a video probably in the afternoon, and we'll have that link in that video, and you can reach out and see if you can actually become one of our participants. It was so nice to me to be able to finally see you on the other side, because I don't get to see that. I do these videos and I get these great comments, but I don't get to see who's watching. So really, this format is for me, so I can actually finally meet you in person and see all of you that are watching.
Absolutely. It's just a terrific new innovation and a mark of technology. Speaking of technology, we have answers to our digital question, which is easier to digest, raw or cooked foods? And 90% say raw foods are much more easily digested, and 10% say cooked foods. Cooked foods, of course, are nice and mushy, but maybe that doesn't have anything to do with this. Doctor, why don't you let us know what is correct?
Now, typically when you think of raw foods, you have all these enzymes that help you digest, but believe it or not, when you cook foods, it is easier to digest cooked foods because it's already broken down by heat. So do I recommend it? No, I recommend a combination. When would I recommend cooked foods? Well, it really depends on your strength of your digestive system. If your digestive system is very weakened, then you probably need to cook more foods. All of them, no, but you need help. So you can do cooked foods, steamed vegetables, fermented foods, germinated nuts and seeds, things like that. But there's so many benefits if you have a healthy digestive system to do raw foods or even rare meats and things like that. But when you break down foods with heat, it is easier to break down. But unfortunately, if your system is so broken down, your digestive system, that you can only eat processed foods that are severely broken down into white flour and white sugar, that's when you get into trouble. So I will release a video on this and what to do, but I eat a lot of raw foods, but that's because my system is better now than it was before.
Well, that's wonderful. I tell you, on YouTube, French wants to know if you can talk about consuming collagen. Is it actually work, or does it do anything at all? Some collagen does nothing after digested. What do you think about collagen, Doc?
Collagen does give some proteins, amino acids. I mean, I think it's one thing to add to your diet if you want to add a variety. I don't really promote it too much because it's not necessarily a complete protein like other proteins. It's just a source of protein, but it's I'm not actually for it or against it. If it helps you, great. Other people take it and they feel absolutely no difference. So my whole thing is trying to get a protein that gives you all the essential amino acids, as well as the amino acids that have a very high level of exchanging rate with your body's tissue. So a recovery, like those amino acids turn into actual body amino acids or proteins. And there's a video that I did on this, on a scale of different proteins that help in recovery and help in replacing your own protein. And breast milk is number one, and then we have eggs, and then we have fish, and it goes down the list. But that would be a much better thing to focus on than the collagen. So I'm kind of neutral when you talk about collagen.
All right, that's interesting. Dr. Berg, how neutral are you on the exciting new videos? Do you want to go over those? We already talked about mouthwash a little bit, but we got a lot of exciting other ones. Why don't you give us a recap of what people can look forward to?
Okay, so we're going to be talking about GMOs. They're both a pesticide and an herbicide or an insecticide. Very interesting. I think everyone needs to watch that one just because there's a big confusion on what really GMOs are. And I think just knowing about that's going to be better. I'm going to talk about infertility, all the things that you can do to increase your fertility. Talk about how fasting can help your blood pressure, smartphone addiction, and then tell you what, Steve, let me just kind of tell you some other videos that I didn't even mention yet. Let me pull up my little note pack here and see if I could find them right here. And let's see, where are my notes here? Oh, okay. So I'll be talking about heartburn and more on the PPIs, turmeric and irritable bowel syndrome. We're going to do a video on that. And also what to do if your triglycerides are too high when you're on keto. And there's many, many other videos to watch this next week. And also, listen, I get a lot of ideas to do videos from your comments, but the video idea would have to be something that's a little bit more broad-based, because some of the questions are so specific that it would only help one or two people. So if you have any ideas for videos, I'm always welcome. I will do them. And like I did one with the black fungus after getting COVID recently. So, because someone mentioned it, and apparently a lot of people had a question on that. So I like to do videos for the more broader population. So if you have any ideas, just go ahead and put them down below, because I'm running out of ideas. And I think hopefully I didn't exhaust the topic to the point where I have nothing else to talk about. And then we're pretty much done with the videos. So give me more ideas.
Absolutely. And I want to let you know that Dr. Berg searches tirelessly over social media. So all the questions that stream by us and we get to as many as we can, he really does read those and he really does take them to heart. I've never seen anybody digest these up at 4 o'clock in the morning, researching what you folks want to know and what the issues are at large with his audience so that he can help you. If you go on to drberg.com and do a little research, you're probably going to find out questions to what ails you. And he never slows down on that. So with that, Dr. Berg, I think it's probably time to say adieu. And why don't you close it up for us and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, let's have a great week. Stay tuned for more data, and I will see you next Friday, same time, same place.